Good afternoon, everyone. Good. Tell me when to start, Jewel. You are good to go. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing this afternoon? My name is Miss Jewel, and I'm here with my team, Maka and Janae, and we are community power builders here at Freedom Inc. Welcome to our Get Out to Vote Kickoff Live. Please like and share. The next voice you will hear will be Maka sharing with you what's been going on since the presidential election. Then Janae will bring to you how you can get involved in the primary election, which is held February the 18th. And I'll be passing it to Maka.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so excited that y'all are with us during our GOTV live stream for the spring primary. I'm going to be sharing a little bit about what has been happening since the last election that we were talking to y'all about in November, and now. So, as you all know, Donald Trump won the election, and ever since he got inaugurated on the 20th, things have changed for a lot of people. What we know from Donald Trump's last administration is that he is racist and he is against our people. Ever since he got inaugurated earlier this month, he has followed through on those threats to our people, right? So there have been many ways he's done this, showing that he's anti-Black, anti-women and girls, anti-queer and trans people, anti-immigrant, anti-refugee, all of the people that we love and represent and care about and that make up our communities. I'm going to talk about a few of them and then talk about what we need to do as community that love and care about each other in the next 4 years and beyond. So one of the main ways that we have seen Donald Trump follow through on his threats against our people is by making a bunch of executive orders. So executive orders are policies that we have to follow from our president, governor, or any other executive branch of government that don't have to go through the legislature, right? That don't have to go to the House of Representatives and then the senators and be voted on, right? And so Donald Trump has made a lot of executive orders. If you've been hearing that word in the news, that's what that means. So we have to follow them until someone challenges him, right? Either from the judicial branch or the legislative branch. So a Supreme Court, a circuit court judge, a federal court judge, and body can like oppose him, and also legislators, right? Like the House and Senate, right? And so one of the main ways that Trump has been threatening our communities is with mass ICE raids. So Trump has set quotas of daily arrest of people who, he believes to be in this country illegally, right? This has caused mass terror and chaos in our communities. And it's also leading to increase in policing infrastructure in our community, right? ICE needs more beds. ICE needs more facilities to work out of. ICE needs more officers to meet the needs of these daily quotas that Trump has been setting. And we know that when they're done with these raids in our communities, they're not going to give the money back. They're not going to turn the detention facilities into community centers. They're going to find another group of people to police and cause terror around, right? And so even for those of us who think that we're citizens and this is not our problem, it is our problem, because again, the more money that goes into policing, even after they quote unquote solve the problem, they never stop. They don't shrink back, right? They continue to grow and grow and grow. So that means more officers, and more jails, and more people needed to fill those jails, right? And so that's one way that he's been following through on the threats to our communities and damaging our communities. The second thing is his war against queer and trans people, specifically trans and gender nonconforming folks. Trump has already made it so that trans people cannot serve in the military, and so that the X cannot be used as a signifier for gender on people's passports. The impact of that is that people's passports, trans people's passports, are being seized right now if they have the X signifier on there, designator on there for gender, right? So this is one way attempt to erase trans people and to also scare and terrorize trans people, right? To say you don't even have the right to move freely across borders because of your identity, right? Because of who you are. Um, that's not okay, right? So um, these are not he's not being vague about his threats. He's being very clear about the people that he does not want here, right? At Freedom Inc. and the people that we rock with, we believe in the inherent value of queer and trans people. We believe that we should celebrate and love and protect and defend queer and trans people. And so it's deeply heartbreaking, and it's impacting our communities, right? And we have members who have had their passports seized, right? Um, Another way that Trump has followed through on his threats against our people is by trying to stop the flow of information, right? And also stopping like what we're sharing with each other on social media platforms, right? If you all remember, the TikTok bans were first proposed by Donald Trump. And regardless of whatever he is trying to make it look like right now, he has allied himself with the tech giants of the United States, like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, and trying to like push out any technology and social media platforms where we're able to discuss freely what's going on in our country right now, how we feel about it, and how we can organize against it. Other ways, and I don't need to say how bad that is, right? One of the first ways um that fascist governments get into power, what they do is like stopping the flow of information, right? And so that's exactly what he's doing. Another threat that he has followed through on is the fact that he froze government funding, all government funding, right? We are in a temporary um, stop of that because of a judge, of a couple of federal judges who put a temporary stop to his freezes, right? But Trump literally froze earlier this month, froze all federal funding, and sent out in a leaked memo said that they're going to stop any funding to anything or any program, any nonprofit or school that mentions pronouns or anything to do with trans people at all. Their rationale and reasoning for this was like, we're protecting women and children. But we should not be fooled by that rhetoric. If Trump wanted to protect women and children, he would not freeze funding to organizations that support primarily women and children. That would not go hand in hand. We cannot be fooled by Trump saying, "Oh no, y'all step aside. We're trying to protect y'all today, right now, right? We're trying to protect y'all. We're just going after the bad trans people because after they go after the quote unquote bad trans people, we're next." Right? We know what that means as Black people, as Southeast Asian people, to be under attack. And we know when they say like, "No, y'all sit tight. We're focusing on this group right now." We're next, right? And so we cannot be fooled by that rhetoric. The impacts of that have been devastating. Even though judges have sided with the people and put a temporary stop on Trump's freezes of government funding to organizations, to anywhere really, already organizations were laying people off, stopping programs, shutting down their websites, um, and making sure that they're able to have funding to carry out their promises to community. And they're seeing that Trump is willing to go this far and freeze all funding. And so they don't want to hire people, or they don't want to promise people about these programs that support with housing, childcare, transportation. um, domestic violence and sexual assault advocacy if they're not sure if they will have the money. So that means, again, like organizations that we work with have had to reduce staffing between 50 and 80% or close their doors altogether. So Trump is not on our side, and he is proving it, right? With all of the executive orders that he's been putting out in the past couple weeks. So, what does that mean for us and our people? That means that now is not the time to be frozen with fear, as the Trump administration intends for us to be, and which is very human, and which is something that I've been hearing a lot from friends and family and community and our members as we're doing weekly programming and events. It is natural to be frozen in fear when this amount of attacks is coming down on your community. But we have something that Trump does not have. We have love for one another, and we have our communities and our families to fight for. So we have to show up and fight for each other right now. And we can do that in many different ways, right? One way that we have done in the past and are preparing to do in the future is to protest, right? It's to actually go out and protest. And we support everyone who wants to go out and protest. What we will say is that the right wing conservatives and white supremacists try to create chaos and confusion. So before you go to a protest, make sure you know the organization that is hosting the protest. Make sure, um, as you're getting ready to go, you're writing down the number of family and loved ones or your lawyer on your arms or somewhere in your body where you can see it in case you do get arrested. Make sure you have a buddy system, right? Try to go with someone else, or at least make sure that people know where you are, right? If it's a protest where you feel like there's going to be a lot of state repression, a lot of police there, make sure to wear some face coverings, so that you're not easily identified, right? And so we just have a little bit of information on the screen. And Jean, you can like move through the information on the screen, and just about what to do before, during, and after you are going to a protest or an action. Um, Another thing that people can do to fight back at this time is actually to vote, right? um Trump is the president, and he can do executive orders, and there are still avenues for us to fight back, especially locally and statewide, because the people who we choose locally and statewide are the ones who are going to be positioned to fight against Trump, because they have the final say about what goes on in our daily lives. And so it's important that we still show up and tell them what we want them to do through our vote, right? So we have an election coming up where we can choose on February 18th. There's a primary coming up for state superintendent, right? This is the person who dictates what our children are learning in schools, right? And is the leadership of the schools in the state of Wisconsin, right? So that is one way we can show, hey, this is who we want leading our schools statewide. We don't want our kids learning about yeah, we don't want our kids learning about um the wrong history. We want them to be proud of their history. We want them to know what actually happened during slavery. We want them to know what fascism is so they can recognize it and fight against it. We want them to know about their own history and be proud of it, right? Like, that's our opportunity, right? And the this office, right, that we're voting for on the 18th, and again on April 1st, they control a lot of things, right? The impact of that. Janae's gonna talk later about school lunch debt, right? Um, it is shameful that our students owe the like just in Madison alone owe the district around $200,000 because they have to pay for lunch, right? And kids are going hungry because of that. When we show up and vote, we're saying, hey, we're against Trump and people who are dividing our families and not supporting us. And we want people in there who are going to fight for our kids to learn about their history and fight for our kids to have free lunch and a healthy lunch and culturally specific lunch, right? And reclaim their dignity, right? And so these are just a couple ways that you can fight. Because let's be clear, all of the things that Trump has done in his first couple weeks of office, It is specifically to make sure that we are repressed and we don't have correct information and we don't have the ability to fight back. That is what it's for. It's so that we are scared, and so that he is leveraging the state, so the police, the sheriffs, ICE, all of that, to make sure that we are scared and we don't have the ability or the information to fight back and to fight all the attacks that he's throwing our way, right? Um, so just know that like we're gonna need to show up now over the next 4 years and beyond, to make sure that we survive this, but we also come out stronger on the other end and can build thriving communities, can build systems of support, and community and mutual aid, so we can get through this and be stronger together, right? And with that, I'm going to pass it to Janae to talk more about how you can get involved, in the February 18th elections and what's at stake. What are some of the impacts, on our communities, depending on like who we vote for, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Janae.
Thank you, Manka. Thank you for your words. And also thank you, community folks, for tuning in with us. I'm Janae. Pronouns are she, her, and hers, as Ms. Jewel mentioned earlier. And I would like to provide some additional information about the upcoming elections and how to stay active on our current campaigns and legislative priorities. So the next primary election is swiftly approaching on February the 18th. The vast majority of Wisconsinites will be seeing the Wisconsin State Superintendent of Public Instruction on the ballot. And looking past this February 18th election, the next one, the next general election will be April 1st, and there will be a Supreme Court seat on that ballot as well. So keep your eyes open for that one. The Wisconsin State Superintendent of Public Instruction, like Manka had mentioned earlier, is responsible for shaping education policy and funding for our public schools, as well as managing school performance. They also help with teachers' licensings and managing overall attendance, and they also publish reports on a majority of these findings. The superintendent also has the ability to work with other key representatives during their 4-year term, and they work with other elected officials, such as the governor, to shape the budget and other regulations for our public schools. As Manka mentioned earlier, current policies, mandates, and executive orders are being used to destabilize our communities. The impact of these elections and staying informed on your rights and what is happening can build people power and community capacity, especially in Wisconsin schools, and push back against violent policies that seek to threaten and terrorize our communities. Currently, there are over 200,000 food insecure children in Wisconsin, with an estimated $109 million in school lunch debt across the state. And families currently owe MMSD over $109,000 in school meal debt that has all accumulated in less than 2 school years. My team and I, along with other partner organizations, community members, and youth, have been testifying around this issue at school board meetings. And what really resonates with me is how many different stories and perspectives people have around access to food, and how a universal meal program would lessen financial or nutritional burdens and allow families to feel more supported by their school districts. We all share similar stories around the stigma associated with needing and using a free meal program based on income, and how that only widens the misunderstandings of barriers to access. And also, teachers are made to be debt collectors, and no child should be in the middle of communicating that debt with their families. Personally, for me, I remember having to bring money to school, and teachers would take attendance as you're handing in your lunch money, and we had to present that lunch money in that fashion. And the shame of not having enough sticks with you, even if it's not you yourself or another student in your class. That shame of not having enough money, regardless of if you know the reason or not, adds unnecessary challenges for the child as well as the family. And in school, we are taught all the time about the food pyramid and that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But when you have lunch debt, or you don't have the lunch money or the access to food, only juice or crackers are offered to kids, and that's all they have to go off of for the rest of the day, if that. This universal meal program can also change our language and conversations around food. For many cultures in our community, sharing a meal and fellowship with each other is a way to build trust and camaraderie. It's how we are able to understand each other, share perspectives, and simply learn more about the cultural expression through food. Therefore, the quality of the food is just as significant as the presence of a meal. And when we invest in what our children are eating, we are also investing in the relationships that they want to build with each other. My organizing work here at FI started with the food pantry during the pandemic in 2020, with countless families in here in Madison seeking food services and other mutual aid networks to alleviate their food insecurities that we are still facing. I challenge you to count how many grocery stores or culturally specific markets and bus stops to get to and from these locations, and take note of how many neighborhoods are constructed around these essential public services and needs, and who is in closest proximity to these spaces. And if you go into these spaces, what does the quality of food look like and the prices, especially for ethnic food? And count how many bus stops you see and highways you have to navigate to access these places, because it's more than just eliminating the debt. It's also about addressing the root causes that allow the debt to occur in the first place. And if you're wondering how to get involved with this campaign and the actions to eliminate school debt, there's a proposed legislative bill, currently LRB 1300, that builds on the campaign to abolish the debt and make school meals universally free for public and private schools. Also, our youth justice team here have been posting about this campaign, so you can also stay up to date on our social medias on our Facebook page. And lastly, we have some important election deadlines that will help you make the most important vote that you can. The deadline to register online or by mail has passed on January 29th. However, you can still register to vote at your municipal clerk's office during the regular work hours. And early voting began on February 4th, but it goes through this weekend, February 16th, though locations may vary by date. So look that up before you go out and early vote. And remember that you can always register to vote and vote on the day of elections as long as you have the eligible proof of residency needed to register. And for more information, like where to find your polling location or what is specifically on your ballot, you can visit vote411.org for more information. I wish you a happy voting experience and thank you for your time. Now back to you, Ms. Jewel.
Thank you, Janae and Maka, for the information and keeping our community updated on what's going on. A little bit about why I vote. I am a grandma of 9, and 8 of my grandchildren are a part of public schools. So I'm voting to make sure I have someone in office that cares not only about my children being happy and healthy, but also about yours too, and making sure that they learn the history of their people that they need to learn. And thanks for tuning in, everyone, today. I also want to invite all you guys to join us on Saturday, February the 15th from 2 to 4 right here at Freedom Inc., 2110 Luann Lane, for what we're calling Sip and Paint. We're going to be having election info. We're going to have free food, and we're also going to have some family fun. So please join us on Saturday, which is this coming Saturday, February the 15th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at Freedom Inc. Thanks for joining. Like and share our live. And remember, your vote matters. So please vote on February the 18th. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.